Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and the Houston Texans have signed cornerback Darius Phillips from the Denver Broncos, but more known of playing for the Cincinnati Bengals, where he spent 4 seasons with the Bengals and spent 1 season with the Broncos. Decent corner, but not only is he a corner, but he is also he's also a kick returner, punt returner. So he also does special teams, not only for returning, but I think for defense as well. But yeah, so he's a decent player. He's it's a solid signing, I will say. I don't think he's gonna make the roster though, and a lot of these guys at this point in time don't have a great shot to make the roster, but they have to prove themselves. Texans have a lot of guys that are going to be candidates to make, kick and punt returns next season. Steven Sims Jr. from Pittsburgh, who they signed. Tank Dell, who they drafted. Possibly Tavier Thomas, who's another corner on this roster. But, another guy who could be in line is Darius Phillips, who did a lot of punt and kick returning last season in Denver. But, we shall see, though. But as the cornerback position, he's a solid corner. I want to talk about, he's third. He's going to be third in the depth chart on left corners. With left cornerbacks, we have number 1 being Steven Nelson. Number 2 is Tavier Thomas. And then number 3, well, it's depending on whoever you want to list at third in the depth chart. Then if we're talking about left cornerbacks, cornerbacks on the left side, you got Steven Nelson, you got Tavier Thomas, and then the 2 other guys you have for corners on the left side are Kendall Sherfield and now Darius Phillips. So I don't know who you want to view as third and fourth on the depth chart as left side corners, but those are the 2 other guys besides Tavier and Steven Nelson, who are left corners for the Houston Texans. But yeah, let's go over his stats. I mean, he barely played defense last year for the Denver Broncos. He had, in 9 games, only had 2 tackles. But, he did way more in his years in Cincinnati. Played 12 games in Cincinnati, 0 game starts. He had 2 passes deflected, 4 fumbles, and I think that might be on his kick returning, which is not good for him. He had 8 tackles in 2021, but then in 2020, a year where he started a lot of games, 12 games and 8 starts, he had 1 interception, which he returned that interception for 21 yards, 12 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, and 38 tackles with 2 tackles for loss. Then 2019, he had 8 games with 1 game start, 4 interceptions. Only started 1 game and had 8. Only played 8 games and started in 1 of them, but had 4 interceptions. Crazy number right there for the time he played. In those 4 interceptions, he returned those for 82 yards with a long of 28. Had 7 passes deflected, with 5 combined tackles and 4 solo. So the weirdest stats I've ever seen. Only 8 games played in 1 start and 5 tackles, but had 4 interceptions. And then his rookie year, played 15 games, 1 start, and this is in 2018. 1 start and 2 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, one fumble recovery, and 22 tackles. So he's not, a game changer. He's a solid corner, and also not only solid corner, but also a really decent special teamer. So I think it's a nice depth piece for the Texans. He'll be a nice addition for training camp and preseason. But besides that, nothing else for the Texans here. He probably won't make the roster unless he does what he did in that season, in that second year when he had 4 interceptions. I don't see him making the roster. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I think the guy could get 4 interceptions and still maybe be in danger of making the roster. Of not making the roster, being in danger of not making the roster, but you're not. That's not even realistic, anyways. You're not going to get 4 interceptions in preseason. Although I could be wrong, anything could happen in this world. But decent signing for the Texans. But the Texans are at a point where they've signed so many players. Now, when they sign a player, they have to waive someone else on the roster, which is not a problem because there's a lot of players. I mean, they waived somebody today. I can't. To make this signing, they had to waive somebody, a wide receiver. It wasn't anybody serious, and so the Texans are at the point if they sign somebody at this point, they have to waive somebody. So I don't know what the roster. I think the roster limit is 90. When you're 90, it's like I believe it is 90 when you're starting up into OTAs, training camp, and all that stuff. So I guess the roster's at 90. So if you're gonna have to waive players or if you want to sign them, so the Texans are at that phase now. But let me know your thoughts on the signing for the Houston Texans. Decent signing, but it won't be much. Won't affect much for this team, but he will have a chance to fight for the Texans, and maybe possibly play a decent amount of much and in training. In training camp and preseason. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoy them. Your thoughts and peace out. Go Texans.